Welcome to Money Mission, a podcast brought to you by AVPN, the leading social investment network in Asia with a mission to moving capitals towards impact. Today, we are honored to have Sachal Aneja, the Regional Corporate Partnership Lead of Plan International.
Welcome, Sachal.
Thank you, Dini, for having me.
Sachal presently lead corporate partnership for Plan International in the Asia Pacific regions for 15 countries based in India. So before we continue with all the conversations that we will talking about Plan International, would you mind to also share your journey on how to be part of this organization and how your contribution for the social impact?
Great. Thank you so much, Dini, for the detailed introduction. First of all, it's a great pleasure to be here on this platform speaking to you. In terms of my journey, I think about 2 decades back, I was a dreamer, a restless young person, I think like we all were, and with a lot of heart to do something good and use my skills and learnings for the greater good of humanity. So I started still on my journey working in a company for the first 2 years as a business analyst. But soon after, in the second year, I realized this is not something I could do all life. And development always, looked very exciting and inspiring because I had experience of doing some volunteering work growing up. Although I come from a business family, and in the Indian culture where I come from, my father always wanted, his son to take over his business and take it to greater heights. But of course, I had different plans and the family was supportive. So I worked after that with I did my first of the 3 masters. I studied development communications and got a direct opportunity to work with Ministry of Health, Government of India. At an interesting time, we were trying to stabilize population, which of course we didn't do a great job of. But yeah, along with Ministry of Health, I worked with Ministry of Rural Development.
Oh, wow.
And it was very interesting to see how the government really, implements huge programs. And then with UN as a UNDP consultant, and then I moved to the international organization setup. So I think overall, what's been interesting is that I've been very lucky and humbled because I got the opportunity not only to work with different development actors, but to also work as them. So it was interesting to understand how do they think, how do they take decisions and implement all that learning into the work I did. And at Plan, I think, being somebody who's been a feminist and really focused on girls' rights, I think there was no better place to be. And like you mentioned, it's a global organization and you have a lot of opportunity to work and make the biggest difference in the lives of children and girls. So yeah, here I am.
Wow. And then back to you mentioned that your family also wants to, you supporting the family businesses.
Yeah.
So what is inspired you? Now you are also, I moved to the sectors.
Yeah.
I committed. I contribute my life and, my dedications to make an impact.
Yeah, I think 2 things really, changed me. One was that while I was growing up, my father is a very pious man. So there was always this spiritual, environment in the house that we used to host feasts for the poor people on specific days in a week. And we were really into, karma along with dharma, as they say. So I have always been the person who believes both in theory and practice. So if you learn something, you listen to something which is interesting, unless you apply it for yourself, it doesn't really add any value. So one thing was the family environment I was growing up in. And the second was the school I went to, because it gave a lot of opportunities to children like me at a very young age to volunteer. So I used to raise funds for care for the girl child, for support for elderly. And I think what it does is that it really sensitizes you and helps you understand that, how at the grassroots level things are so different and how privileged one is growing up. So I think that thing remained in me.
Turning your life, right?
So I think all the life decisions, career decisions, and all the choices I made was somewhere, integrated, and volunteering changed that fabric in me somehow, which I truly feel brought me where I am today.
It brings your personal values, right?
Yeah.
So it means that I'm sure that it helps your work right now with Plan International as well. So as the regional corporate partnership lead at Plan International, you oversee corporate engagement, right? And then more strategies in APAC regions as well. So could you describe your role and also responsibility in more details?
Absolutely. So firstly, I would say that this is the most exciting time to actually be in the Asia Pacific region. As you know, we've grown fourfolds, and 48% of the global wealth currently lies in APAC. So it's a very exciting part of the world, a continent to be in. We are also one of the youngest continents on the planet. Most of the countries where we have huge population of young people. Hence, there is an opportunity to really, sensitize them, make them responsible citizens, taking care of themselves, their countries, societies, and economies. And at the same time, I feel that, we are also subjected to huge development issues. The world is so much different than what it was when we all were growing up. And we see a very complex environment now for everyone to live in. So here, and of course, when we look at issues like climate change, which is completely changing, the game of development altogether, Asia Pacific is the region which is going to be most affected, unfortunately. So here lies both the issue and the opportunity for different stakeholders to come together. And in my view, private sector is one of the most integral ones, who will play a big part in shaping the future. So any kind of corporate partnerships, is what really I look at, plan. So largely, my role requires to support all, the 15 countries that you mentioned. So I look at South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Pacific Islands. However, plan works globally in different regions. So apart from APAC, we also work in East, Central, South, and West Africa. We are in Middle East, we are in Latin America. And the umbrella themes on which we work, which we think are most important for children and especially girls, are the same. And within that, APAC is actually driving a lot of engagement, a lot of partnerships with private sector. So just to give you a sense of what we do a lot of long-term strategic partnerships, which are around funding, where a company feels that their corporate social responsibility goals align to what Plan's mission is. So they would give us a big funding for 3 to 5 years for us to implement a program. We do a lot of co-creation programs, which is a very exciting thing, where we look at what a company can offer, what is the core expertise of that company, and what are the needs that we have at the community level, and how we can marry the two. We do a lot of advocacy and influencing work because just doing programs, we feel, isn't enough. We really need to break stereotypes. We need to shape the thinking of people towards gender equality. So advocacy, influencing is a big part. And then skills-based volunteering, technology grants, innovation funds, the list is very long.
So you mentioned really deep in the collaborations. Can you specific what thematic issues that has been Plan International working on? For example, like you mentioned about youth, children and young women as well, right? And then the demography of, for example, in Indonesia, we have been 270 million population as well, and then 60% coming from the young generations. Is there any specific issues that actually Plan doing?
Yeah, so basically, we've largely been a child development organization, but in the last decade or so, we have really sharpened our focus on working with girls, and it's very important because we feel that any development issue you pick up, it's the girls who are most vulnerable to those conditions. And whether we talk about education, they're the last one to be educated. In terms of health, they are completely deprioritized. If there is less food in the family, girls are often the last ones to be fed and the first ones to be married off. And again, we know that the world sees about 560 natural disasters every year. And with climate change, it's only going to increase. And one of the big stakeholder groups who's going to be massively affected by climate change is going to be girls. Hence, the entire focus, directly comes into play. Also, in terms of issues, statistics tell us that every 30 seconds, 7 girls are married off, in Asia Pacific region, who are underage, who haven't attained the legal age. So one of Plan's big goal is to end child early and forced marriage, which we feel is, really at the epicenter And we know there are different customs, rituals, and contexts in which we operate in South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Pacific, which really force girls to be married off early, depriving them of any opportunity to be educated, to be skilled, to have a better control of their bodies, their lives, their careers, which is taken away. So that is one of the prime goals. And how we do that is through our programs on free quality education, where we are trying to, again, partner with different stakeholders, with government departments and ministries, with private sector organizations, with a lot of community-based partners and local civil society organizations, to first bring girls to school and make sure that parents, teachers, everyone is engaged, and we are able to really get to them the education they deserve. Then in terms of health, we focus a lot on sexual and reproductive health rights, which is, again, a huge thing when we talk about child marriages and adolescent pregnancies, and how that has a major impact on the health of the girls and lifelong consequences. And the third part is looking at skilling and employability and entrepreneurship, which I think is, again, very exciting. With the economic growth we are experiencing as a region, it has some really exciting potential. There's a McKinsey study which says that if we were to bring the young women and at par to the men, it's going to create 28% more GDP for the region and the world, which is what we really need. I think we're talking about some $248 trillion US, which could be there if we are able to address this problem really well in a rounded up approach.
Amazing. So as you mentioned, like Plan International has partnered with multi-stakeholders, right? It's like corporations, government, and as well other institutions to develop a program. You mentioned like several programs under Plan International that can bring a change, especially for children and young women in Indonesia and also in other 15 countries, right? Yeah. So, given your expertise in corporate partnership, how do corporations like philanthropy as well, organization or other stakeholders can support this initiative aimed to, more giving at what's best for children and youth?
Absolutely. And I think first thing that we really need to do is to make it a level playing field for everyone. When let's say if we talk about investment in women entrepreneurs, we know that there are very limited networking opportunities for them. Most women don't play golf or don't smoke cigars, so they are those kind of opportunities are really barred off. So I think we need to create an ecosystem in which all these different development actors can come together and collaborate, not just in letter but in true spirit. And to that effect, I would like to congratulate you. I mean, AVPN has been doing a spectacular job in doing this and bridging this space, bringing everyone together in a very collaborative way. And every time I come to an AVPN event, I feel a very different energy stepping into that room, that everyone is open, they want to talk about issues, they want to ideate solutions and drive change together. So I think only multi-stakeholder kind of approaches can work. So at Plan, my job is particularly when I'm shaping different kind of corporate engagements, I largely like focusing on multi-country programs because the kind of scope we have in terms of our work. So globally, in the last 5 years, we touched lives of 100 million girls, and we have now raised our ambition and we've doubled it up.
Wow!
So next 5 years, you'll see Plan working with 200 million girls. So that's
amazing.
So that itself, it's like it's a big number. So it's changed the way we are thinking, we are doing things, and I think from what we really need, the need of the hour is for everyone to come together and to shift from that transactional approach of doing development or collaboration to a transformational approach. And I think that is the only way we are going to, if we can achieve the SDGs or make significant progress further.
You mentioned there's a cross collaborations across regions, right? So can you give more into details which regions that has make a collaborations for supporting the initiative?
Sure. So it could be different kinds of partnerships. So if we talk about corporate collaborations, we have projects like I can give an example, a partnership with Standard Chartered Foundation, which was very creatively curated immediately after the pandemic because in the last 2-3 years, with pandemic, a lot of progress that we had made on different issues was lost. And, the lockdowns really made things difficult because schools were closed, the centers were closed, we couldn't meet, interact with each other. There was always this fear of the infection spreading. And donor priorities were changing globally. It was not about educating people, it was more about saving lives. That was really the need of the hour. So, but after the pandemic, sort of slowed down, we had to get back and pick up things. And when we saw...
Can you elaborate more on how difficult it is? Or
it was very difficult, Dini. I mean, we just...
because I think everyone also wants to hear the challenges and how you facing that and how to creating more open-minded people to make collective actions together, right?
Yeah, I think 2-3 things which I can say. One says that these development issues really excavated to another level altogether. Just on the issue of child marriage, when we did a study, we felt that 17 years of progress was lost in those 2 years.
Oh my God.
And again, we had to really start from the scratch and, do things, build things together. So that was really tough.
Is this which regions that?
This is the entire Asia Pacific region.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So altogether, I think there is a lot of work that's happened, but pandemic really, disconnected us from working directly with children. There were thousands of cases of, child violence and abuse against children and women, which was being reported. And these are the official numbers. So just imagine what the unofficial numbers would actually look like. So life became very difficult that ways. But I think
these official numbers coming from the government?
This was the studies which was done by different civil society organizations working on these issues. And I think, but it was also a moment of recognizing that how, a lot of development workers at the grassroots levels were the real superheroes, which we might relate to the ones we see in the movies, who were right there, risking themselves, their lives to save others' lives. And I think we really understood the potential and how, as a world, as a community, we could come together. I always feel that, it was the time when we saw the worst and the best of humanity, because it really brought people together, to fight something. So the collaboration, I think, really started well. And the third thing was that it was also the time to repair and redo things and the opportunity to do it right this time. So in that regard, a lot of our corporate partners or strategic partners whom we met, we saw that, this was a blank state and we were trying to redo things. So let's make sure we are doing it in a gender transformative way. Things, phenomena are more equal, powers are equally shared, and the designs are more equitable of the overall partnership. So one partnership I can quote is with the Standard Chartered Foundation, where it was a multi-country approach. It was about working with young people in different countries. And seeing how, because, they had a big impact when they lost, educational or skilling opportunities or job opportunities during COVID. So we created this program called the Future Makers Program with Standard Chartered. And we work in Thailand, Nepal, Indonesia, China, and Vietnam, in 5 countries. So that the umbrella theme was to get livelihoods back for young people. But when we contextualized the programs to the actual realities and what was the need and the skills required in those countries.
It's like speechless. I believe a lot of big corporations, big foundations would like to have a very strong strategic partnership, right? To supporting each other. And I think it's really important to find the right partner to do the implementations, right? Okay. So I think I have notes here. So, so basically, like PEN International, known for its impactful work in fulfilling child rights and gender equality, priority areas in inclusive, quality education, youth empowerment, early childhood development, protection from violence, sexual health and rights, and also skills and decent work. So is it compile everything that you mentioned?
I think so,
yeah.
And then, of course, climate change and the growing need and effort in that is a big one.
Okay, so could you share like some of the key initiatives? You mentioned already everything, our program that PEN International is currently undertaking in the regions.
Yeah. I think one of the important areas also which I'd like to mention is strengthening the voice and agency of girls and children is also a big part of our work at a policy and influencing level. So we engage with strategic networks and forums such as the ASEAN, the SARS network, the SARC summit. Globally, we work with World Economic Forum, different UN agencies and networks. And the idea there is to strengthen the voice of girls, because I feel that women and girls have a lot of inherent power. But because of the systems, because of the processes, because of the customs we have, we end up disempowering them. So we end up, marginalizing or minimizing issues that girls and women face. So what distinguishes us is that just from the grassroots level to up down, any project we do, whether it is skilling or imparting skills, we work at an ecosystem approach with different players. So there are gender transformative approaches built within the foundation of the system. And we do some amazing reports, publications. So just to give an example, is something called the State of the World's Girls Report, where we look at different development indexes in education, leadership, environment, health, and many others, and we rank countries based on those metrics with the data we get from the field. So, it can be used as a credible document that guides our work that we do, but it is also used by other leading civil society partners as a plan, input. And secondly, we do some amazing campaigns for girls. The global theme we have is called Girls Get Equal. And because we've been talking about the pandemic, so during 2020-21, as you would agree, the entire world went online. And I think when I spoke to some of the experts, they felt that the world wasn't so ready to be digitized. We were still thinking it will take 3 to 5 years to reach where we are. But because of COVID, everything moved so fast. And being online was the only medium of doing things. So a lot of girls that we work with were on those portals, and we spoke to 26,000 girls in 43 countries.
How do you do that?
So we have
a technology to supporting.
We use a lot of technology.
Okay.
We have programs at the grassroots level. So we've been around for more than 80 years. We're here in Indonesia, where we celebrated 54 years of being around this week. So when we spoke to all these girls, they said that they love being on social media platforms. They love being on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, WhatsApp, but 85% of the girls came back to us saying that they do not feel safe on these platforms.
Interesting.
Because they feel that, when they are raising an issue, when they are trying to express themselves about what they are feeling, they often get trolled, they get stalked. There are a lot of negative comments, there's body shaming, there's so much trauma that they face on social media. And if we look at the reporting mechanisms, they aren't so strong enough. So if somebody is harassing you and you get the account blocked, they are free to make another email ID and another account and back to doing what they do. So we felt that this was a big problem. And as an organization who truly believes in advancing rights of girls, we have to address it. So we did this research, which was substantial, significant results. And then we also did a pledge. We did a campaign where more than 75,000 people from around the world said that, yes, we acknowledge this is a problem. And it's not only girls. It's more than that, different communities face that as well. And it is often said that the trauma you go through on social media, in some cases, it is equal to any physical trauma that you face. So like any cut or bruise, it'll give you the same amount of pain, but emotionally. And mental health, we know, is not an issue which is very well acknowledged. So what we did was we got the research, we got the voices of the girls, we got the general buy-in of different people, and we went to the social media companies and we said, hey, this is a huge problem. And we're not here to just complain that, this is what you need, but we also have solutions that you can look at. And we are very open, and we would love to collaborate and share these solutions with you and build it together. So this was, again, one of the massive campaigns, and some big social media companies came forward and they've created a committee where 6 to 8 representatives, the girls activists from different parts of the world, are now on that committee, changing the social media platforms we use daily, making it more safer for everyone.
And do you think that this initiative also needs support from the government to process this with the various
absolutely.
targets?
Yeah, I think government is the biggest development player out of us all. And as non-profit organizations, all we are trying to do is to support the government in having achieve different development goals. So a lot of regulations, especially, and because I work with a lot of countries, there are very different contexts and ways in which social media is perceived, adopted, or regulated. So I think it's best that government also sort of steps in and makes sure that there are enough laws to protect the people on these social media sites, and it is a more free space for people to express themselves.
Okay, so I think I still have a lot of questions, but I think the most important that could you share and elaborate how important it is to invest in the meaningful participations of girls and youth in leadership? Because you mentioned about social media and also about the stunting, right? And I think it will be very interesting as well on how to develop kind of women leaders in the future, right?
Absolutely, and I think it's a very, very valid and very important question. But just before answering that, if you just look at the world, the landscape in which we live, I think poverty, inequality are at really extreme limits. For the moment, climate is changing so much faster than we all hoped and thought, and there is vast destruction of natural resources. We see issues of quality education, unemployment, a lot of unrest. Few years before, we've seen it was, I think, the year of youth protests, where the world saw a massive number of young people on the streets protesting for their rights or against things that they felt was wrong, which was actually great to see, because I think when I was younger and I was in college studying, we were still in that thinking zone, whether we should engage or not, or if yes, then what would it look like. But for seeing young people now actually on the streets, trying to fight for things they feel is right is a great step forward. But again, the way the geopolitical systems is moving on and the problems we have, I think it's really up to the young people how they would like to change the world. And within that, having a very inclusive approach, so making sure that we are listening to girls, we are listening to boys, we are also engaging with LGBTQ plus and other communities, and we are taking charge as one is most important. And particularly, impossible gives me hope. It tells me that, there is scope of doing things which haven't been done. And for Plan particularly, we feel that nothing is going to be right till girls get equal. So that's the motto, and that's what we do.
And yes, I think I also have a clue on the Youth Action Platform.
Yes.
Can you explain more about this?
Sure. So Youth Action Platform is something very exciting coming up. So as planned, we work with millions of young people, both within APAC and around the world. And the Youth Action Platform is an initiative through which we are trying to bring all these young people who have common issues to address across the region, across Asia Pacific, together under one platform, which means that this will be a portal through which we can, share a lot of messages. We can do a lot of campaigning work. We can do a lot of call to action, and even for our strategic partners, it becomes a one-stop shop through which they can communicate with millions of young people who are, part of Plan's programs. So last year, our chief executive, inaugurated this portal, and we've been working on some really interesting features, which are coming up. It has some gamification versions, because we are dealing with young people. We're trying to make it very exciting, very simple, to both understand different development issues and to engage with them. So I think around October or November, we'll have it ready to be launched.
So how about stunting? Stunting has been a very important issue that has been, in the cross regions as well.
Yeah.
Can you explain more about this?
Yeah, I think, it's very good we are talking about stunting, because it's been one of the silent pandemics, I think, which has been around and really, growing massively. And because the world has gone through so much in the last 4 to 5 years, I think we've lost track of, how we were progressing towards the issue of stunting prevention. So Plan has a very strong focus on this particularly, and it's an issue which is important to us in multiple countries. In Indonesia specifically, we are working with the central and the regional ministries and government departments to address this problem together, because I think that is the best approach. We feel programmatically, and we'll be able to reach much farther, faster, and do a lot better. So through these interventions, and also working with a lot of community-based child protection groups and programs, we've been able to save lives of 100,000 children. And currently we are working with more than 300,000 families and children in terms of our further programs on stunting prevention.
Thank you so much. Do you have any last shot to all our friends here who are listening the Money Missions podcast?
Yeah, I think it's a great time to be, and if you're listening to this, you're already interested in the development space and the sectors and thinking about what you can do and the role you can play. So I would just say that the time to act is now, and the world is much more collaborative than it was earlier. And along with, money definitely plays a significant part in fixing a lot of problems. And then there are so many, more ways to look at it as well. So just one thing, one message to everyone is to change the world within and around you. Thank you.
Super. Thank you so much, Sachal. Okay, everyone. Hope you enjoy this conversation with Sachal, and safe flight back to India. And see you again next time.